always wanted to have a baby, but we got married early. I was literally 22 at the time, I believe, or 23 when I got married. So, at the time I knew I didn't want to have a baby right away. So we waited for about 7 years or so. And then I remember we were kind of, I would say, trying, let's say that was 2000 and let me see, 2022, so 2021, we were kind of like trying, but I still felt like I wasn't there yet because I was still very hands-on in my business. I was still teaching all my classes by myself. I was running the back end all by myself. I was still servicing clients at the time. So I was literally out of the house 12 hours a day, 12 hours a day. And I was, how can I say, like, I felt like, yes, I'm making good money, but I'm also changing or replacing my time for that money as well. So at the time I started outsourcing. So because I knew like, okay, at this time I'm ready to have a baby. It's time, but I don't want to have a baby and be away from the house all the time. Like, what's the point? So at the time I started putting systems in place. So I, hired a team to help me. I hired a marketing team to help me as well. I hired a virtual assistant. I hired my first instructor. I put systems in place when it comes to my CRM and my, onboarding process. So everything was pretty much automated. At the time, I was still doing my own sales calls at the time. I couldn't trust anyone else yet. So that was the only thing I was still busy with, but everything else was, I would say, was offboarded or outsourced. And
Okay,
then
this
I
is
also,
brilliant to be doing those steps before you start your journey into motherhood. Like, this is, I think every business owner mom needs to hear that. Hey, welcome everybody. We are so excited that you're here for another Empowered Moms Extraordinary Together session. And I am super thrilled, like total mom crush here. We have Nikolina with us, who is an incredible mom, an incredible wife, an incredible makeup artist. Her classes are to get into. So we are so lucky to have her here to just chat with us about mom life, about being a business owner, all of the hardships and struggles that brings and how we get through it, as well as we're super lucky as members of Empowered Moms, you are going to get access to her course on the, as you can see, her gorgeous everyday look right now. She is going to give that to us and give us access to it later. So stay tuned. If you're not a member, make sure you join us because this alone is worth every penny. So we're super excited to have you here and just hear all about your life as a mom. Tell me a little bit, first of all, what season are you in motherhood?
yes. So first of all, hi, Jen. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the mom. I'm a wife. I am Eastern European. I came here 10 years ago or 11 years ago, actually, to the States. And I also own a makeup academy here in Las Vegas. So this is just a background photo, but this is how it looks like. And I'm excited to share my story. I'm excited to share what I do and how I navigate through, being a mom and being a business owner and being successful. I believe I am successful in both. So I'm happy to share some tips and tricks with you guys today. So if you can remind me, Jen, what was your first question?
Yeah, sure. And super successful. Don't downplay that at all, girl. You're amazing. So let's start there. Tell me a little bit about coming here 10 years ago, like new to the country. Had you been in and out before? What was that like?
Yeah. So I came actually, it was 11 years. I keep saying 10 because I was always stuck on 10 years, but it was 11 years now in May. And I came here as an immigrant, well, technically as a work and travel student who came just to explore America first time. I was 21 at the time and I loved it. And I decided to stay, to be honest. And I overstayed my visa and I was here, I would say about 4 years. I didn't have any papers. So I was undocumented, but I loved especially here in Las Vegas, because I moved to Las Vegas. So I have to point that out because it wouldn't probably be the same if I moved to Kansas or some small city in North Carolina or something like that. I probably wouldn't be as excited, but I think that Vegas was really something that I realized at the time that if I want to do something, and I didn't know what at the time, but I felt like I wanted to create something for myself. I thought that Vegas was the city for it because where I'm from a very small city back in Serbia, back in East Europe, and just the opportunities and people and things that I wanted to do wouldn't really be as possible or would be much harder to achieve. And I felt like Vegas has all these, the luxury and all these, hotels and opportunities and all these people coming to Vegas to spend tons of money. So when you're surrounded by that, it's more likely to achieve bigger things because you see it's possible, right? So that was one of the things, I guess, or one of the reasons why I decided to stay. And again, at the time, I didn't know I wanted to get into beauty. I always had beauty as my passion, but I really wanted to, explore what I can do as business, how I can create my business here. So I went to a cosmetology school. A little bit after that, around the same time I met Ivan and we got married. And then I went to cosmetology school and decided I wanted to become a makeup artist. And I became a makeup artist around 2016. And I had my, I would say, first business at a time.
Okay. All right. So how long were you in that before you kind of went off and started your own really successful makeup business?
Makeup Academy.
Yes.
Yes, so Makeup Academy, I started in 2020, technically. I started the process of getting a license through the Education Commission in 2019. Took me about 8 months to get my license. So I was a freelance makeup artist for about 4.5, 5 years maybe before starting my Makeup Academy. And
Okay.
yeah, and that's how I transitioned. I was still doing makeup for the first 2 years while running the Makeup Academy. I was still servicing clients and traveling, but then the business took off and it was getting very successful, and I just didn't have the time anymore. So now, if I do accept clients, it's very limited. Maybe once or twice a year I do a bridal party, but mostly I'm here in my Makeup Academy teaching classes.
I love that. And you've got people that fly in from all over, which is amazing. You've built up this incredible, super successful, well-known academy.
Yes,
Well
about
done. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. So thank you. It's been a work in progress, but I would like to say that I've manifested this. I've created this business and this um, I would say I structured my business to attract the type of clientele because I saw a need. And we go into business because we want to solve a problem. And my problem was I went to cosmetology school and they typically are very expensive, between 15, 20, $25,000. They don't teach makeup, but most of all, they don't teach you how to run a business. And I saw that need in this market space. Second, I saw that there's not a lot of specialized makeup academies that specialize only with makeup and with business as well. And that was something I developed as well. And then third of all, I've realized a lot of states don't have any education. A lot of cities don't offer any education in beauty. So, and I was like, you know what? Vegas is a popular location. There is millions of people who fly in here every year. Why not create an academy and try to attract that type of clientele and that type of student? And that's exactly what happened. And now about 70% of our students fly out to Vegas to take our classes.
It's a great place to travel to. I've been there quite a few times. It's a lot of fun. But that is just to find that niche and find that need. It's so hard to believe they're not teaching women business skills when they're in there taking these courses. It almost feels like that needs to be a necessary part of it to be successful. So, way to go on finding that gap and really filling it.
I
So,
appreciate that. Thank you.
tell me about your journey into becoming a mom alongside all of this going on.
Yes. So we've obviously always wanted to have a baby, but we got married early. I was literally 22 at the time, I believe, or 23 when I got married. So, at the time I knew I didn't want to have a baby right away. So we waited for about 7 years or so. And then I remember we were kind of, I would say, trying. Let's say that was 2000 and let me see, 2022, so 2021. We were kind of like trying, but I still felt like I wasn't there yet because I was still very hands-on in my business. I was still, teaching all my classes by myself. I was running the back end all by myself. I was still servicing clients at the time. So I was literally out of the house 12 hours a day, 12 hours a day. And I was, how can I say, like, I felt like, yes, I'm making good money, but I'm also changing or replacing my time for that money as well. So at the time I started outsourcing. So because I knew, like, okay, at this time I'm ready to have a baby. It's time, but I don't want to have a baby and be away from the house all the time. Like, what's the point? So at the time I started putting systems in place. So I, hired a team to help me. I hired a marketing team to help me as well. I hired a virtual assistant. I hired my first instructor. I put systems in place when it comes to my CRM and my, onboarding process. So everything was pretty much automated. At the time, I was still doing my own sales calls at the time. I couldn't trust anyone else yet. So that was the only thing I was still busy with. But everything else was, I would say, was or offboarded or outsourced. And then
Okay, this
I
is
also,
brilliant to be doing those steps before you start your journey into motherhood. Like this is, I think every business owner mom needs to hear that. Like you have to make yourself replaceable in some of these things so you can have time with your baby.
And you have to, you have to do it with a team. I'm sure you can agree this too. Like I can do this all by myself and reach certain point, but then at that point I'm just replacing my time for that money. So I had to, duplicate myself. So what I also did, because I'm in the coaching space and most of my programs at the time I was teaching hands-on, I decided to record everything. So I recorded everything that I teach. So I wanted to also have this resource for my students. So when they join the program, they don't feel like, oh, it's someone else teaching me. Like I'm still the one being part of this academy. So I recorded my whole set of my whole program, from the sanitation, color theory, to all the makeup looks, to all the business and social media marketing. Like everything is recorded. And I was able to hire an assistant or instructor, and she is kind of, I would say, mini me in a sense. Like she's replaced me a lot, even though I'm still hands-on and I still like to come to the academy because I enjoy it, not because it's something I have to do. I really truly enjoy being part of the class and
Passion. Yeah.
but I managed to, if I'm not there, I know my students are taken care of. So that was one of the things I did. And then, like I said, putting systems in place. I didn't have systems at the time. I was onboarding my students manually, getting the email on the phone, sending them a manually invoice, sending them a contract, waiting for them to sign, then giving them manual access to, at the time I was using Kajabi. So for me, all that was just a lot of, like, it took me an hour to onboard one student. So I'm like, this has to be automated. If I'm repeating these tasks every single day, there has to be a way. So I was very thankful to meet someone, Andy. He's with the system I'm using right now for my coaching program in general, everything from CRM to contacts to communication to onboarding to contracts. I'm using one system for everything. And that system has literally been a game changer since. And then again, virtual assistant as well, who I've trained. She's now pretty much, replaced me when it comes to communicating, again, onboarding and all that. So that's what I did. And then at the time, I remember it was like 2022, January, and again, 2021, we were trying in a sense, like, oh, if it happens, it happens, and at the time it didn't happen. I guess when you're trying something to happen, it's so like you put this resistance on it as well. So, and I remember 2022, we stopped trying in a sense. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, and the baby just happened. I found out I was pregnant. I remember I was at work. We were literally, me and I, when we were in my office, and I was like, let me go and do this test real quick. I was in my office doing my test. And that's how I found out. So yeah. And then 2022. And I love, I always say, like, when you discover you're pregnant, right? You have 9 months. It gives you the buffer. It gives you buffer to put any system in place that you need to, kind of do everything that you need to do in order to prepare yourself for success in sense when you have the baby. So I love that if you need to again, hire a team, or if you need to just change something in your business. If I'm not sure if everyone in your coaching program will be business owners or maybe stay-at-home moms, but like anything that you're struggling with, anything that you need to do, it gives you that 9 months of the time. And I was very lucky
Amazing.
because
Yeah.
in the beginning of my journey, obviously, I'm sure too, like when you get pregnant, you're very tired, you don't have the energy, like all this. And then I would say months after, like I would say second trimester, I got this crazy amount of energy. Like I had energy more than ever in my life. So I was
That's
like, let me use this. So I worked a lot. And actually at the time I decided to move and expand. I was in a much smaller studio. So this is the studio or academy we're in right now, and we decided to expand. So I did all that while I was pregnant as well. I started looking for a new place. I worked with a realtor, and then we signed a lease. I remember around July we signed the lease. And I would say that this was the unfortunate part where we actually went and decided to move. My lease started in October, and I had baby 25th of September. So 2 months after having or 2 weeks, I mean, after having a C-section, I was already in this academy, putting these chairs together, putting all this together, cleaning the floor. It was crazy. So that's not ideally what I wanted to happen, but it did happen at the time. So, but again, I'm blessed that I was able to do all that.
That's incredible. I think it is really nice that we as moms don't get an overnight surprise. We get that window of 9 months to really prepare. And it's true, whether you are a business owner or stay at home, I think you need that time just to catch your breath and understand this process. And our bodies know too. We kind of had a similar thing of not getting pregnant when we were trying so hard, and then surprise, it happened right as we were looking at adoption options. So it's amazing what our bodies already know and know what to do. So
Yeah.
all right, so you're like a month in and you're right back in getting your academy all set up in your new space, like baby in tow, doing all the things. How was that beginning stage of being a mom? Did you have any struggles through that, especially being a mom and keeping your business going, even though you've automated? It still takes a lot out of us as business owners. It's still, I mean, it's your second baby. It really is. So, how did you juggle all that in the first season?
Well, that was very challenging. First of all, at the time, I always like to say this, like I look at myself or I think of myself, my inner language and my I'm trying to find the word, my personality and also my identity. That's the word I'm looking for. My identity wasn't just a mom. I always knew that I I love to hustle. I love to make money. I love to be, you know, um, recognized for my achievements. And what really gives me the most at the time, obviously before the baby, what gave me the most satisfaction when I come home and I feel fulfilled was my business and my students. So I did not want to lose that identity. But having a baby, that puts you in a different mindset, a different energy. Running a business and being all about numbers and sales and students was very masculine energy, right? So now having a baby put me in a lot of, I would say, feminine energy. So it was hard juggling that in the beginning. I do believe that a lot of things affected um my birth or giving birth. For example, I was very stressed at the time. We were renovating the studio, so we were working with a lot of contractors, and it took me 4 days to have baby. I went into labor on Thursday. I had a baby on Sunday. My cervix didn't want to open, and I do believe it was because of that underlying stress I was going through, financially as well. We'll be able to pull this off. It's a big investment, right? So like you're working with all this things in the back end in the same time. So that was one of the reasons why, I now looking back at it, I know that that was one of the reasons why my cervix wouldn't open. And they did all they could. They put the bubbles and they did the oxytocin and they did all these drugs to make me open, and they didn't want to open more than 2 centimeters. So that was very challenging, and I ended up having a C-section, which I didn't want. I really wanted to do it naturally. Then the baby was in the NICU for a week after that for different reasons. So like that was a whole, I would say, a mess in a sense. I'm trying to kind of like, at the time I felt very guilty. But now, I just say like it had to be done in a sense, right? It had to be done. After that, I wanted to breastfeed, and I did. I breastfed for about 3 months ish, but I was away a lot from my baby because I had to start teaching classes. I had my first class, I remember, 22nd of October. So we were moving in between 1st of October and 22nd of October, getting this ready. And then 22nd of October, I had my first class. I remember my first class I'm teaching, and I'm literally like running because I have one more room here, and I'm like pumping, you know what I mean? Like I'm pumping and saving the milk in the fridge and then running home to get the milk. So that was very challenging because, as a mom, when you're close to the baby, you produce more milk, right? So I wasn't close to the baby. And we joke, I mean, this is a joke, but it's also reality. Ivan was a mom and I was a dad in a sense, going out and working, and he was staying at home because he works from home, and he was the one taking care of the baby and changing and putting him to sleep and all that. And I'm like, these roles have completely shifted, right? So like, and it was challenging. It was very challenging, and it brought us both a lot of resentment.
Yeah.
I remember at the time, like, we're okay, but again, I'm also going through my postpartum too. Even though my postpartum, I wouldn't say I had um, a lot of issues. I'm very thankful. I didn't have the depression, but there was a lot of sadness. Um, I remember also at one point, baby didn't want to drink my milk anymore. Like he was just refusing. And it could be maybe the stress, again, stress hormone that you produce, and, it goes to your milk too. It could be that as well. So I lost my milk maybe around December. I remember I couldn't breastfeed anymore. Just the baby was denying the boob whatsoever. And then Ivan was depressed. He was like, he felt like he's literally like sitting at home all day and taking care of the baby. And he was like, I see him, he's sad. He's not like operating on his best frequency, right? Again, our roles changed. So that was very challenging. That part was very challenging. I remember I felt like I was robbed of that time that I could have been at home enjoying being with the baby, just not worrying about the bills, not worrying about everything. Because getting into this big studio or big academy, my expenses raised, and I had new hires. So all that I had big overhead I had to cover. So that was a big stress on me at a time. But again, it's like things happen for a reason. It made me grow faster, because maybe if I didn't get into the studio, I would maybe keep postponing it. Like, well, I just had a baby, I'll do it next year. Well, I just this, I would maybe find excuses. So I'm grateful that this pushed me to do this big change. But also on the other side, I did feel guilty for a lot of time because of I felt like I was robbed of being a mom. So, it was challenging. It was very challenging in the beginning.
Yeah, I hear your heart. And I'd love to hear your heart because I think there's so much. I mean, obviously, our goal here is that we break down these walls that are meant to divide us in society and we actually come together as moms and just support each other in being a mom. And I think there's so much criticism from stay at home mom, or you're a working mom, or you're this or you're that. It's just this constant thing to tear us down, which is what it's designed to do. And oftentimes we fall into the trap and we let it. But, and I've had that as a working mom. I've heard, like, well, how could you not stay home with your kid? Like, how could you do that? And it's a matter of identity, and it's a matter of what makes you happy and brings you joy. And I know too, if I hadn't gone back to work and done the thing that I love and running a business, I probably would have fallen into depression and resentment and ways of like not bonding with my kids the way I needed to. So be encouraged as they get older. This all gets a little bit easier. And as you know, I mean, you're already one season ahead of that
Yes.
baby and infant stage, but it's nice to hear, and I hope that it encourages other moms, whether you're stay at home, whether you're a business owner, whether you're MLM, whether you're, however you're working, going out to a 9 to 5 every day, working at home, we're all struggling. We all have ways that we struggle. We all have hardships that we go through. We all have ways that we feel guilty. We feel the resentment. We can get stuck in that, but we've got to learn how to support each other and we've got to really hear each other's hearts. At the end of the day, we're moms, we're doing our best to raise the next generation. And I think we need to love each other better through that. So I'm so happy that you shared that part of that struggle as a business owner. I mean, you do the stress and how it feeds into your body. And same thing, I remember not being able to, I have, my girls are 16 months apart. So I had back to back pregnant nursing, pregnant nursing. So my body was just in chaos mode. But I remember with my second, I got to the point too of like working, have a toddler, have my husband gone 6 to 7 months out of the year for work.
Yeah.
I was the same way. My youngest was crying every night. She's crying herself to sleep. I wasn't producing enough. And I remember my mom came with the good organic formula because she knew, I'm crunchy granola. So she swoops in and she gives my sweet little baby her first bottle of formula, and I was crying. I couldn't even give it to her because I felt like I had this standard that I was supposed to follow to breastfeed my kids to 1 year or I was a failure.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember watching her give her first bottle, and I remember my mom saying to me, "You're not a failure. This is what this baby needs right now, and it doesn't hinder who you are as a mom."
Yes.
And she slept through the night. And my mom just kind of, hugged onto me and she's like, "You're doing great." And she's like, "Sweetheart, when I left the hospital, they sent us home with formula. Like they encouraged us to just feed the baby formula." And she's like, "This whole wave of what you're feeding into because of what you're hearing from society of who you're supposed to be as a mom, you got to let it go and just do what your baby needs at the time." So I love that you just, and I hated to hear, I heard you say guilt a few times and I picked up on that. And my hope for you is you just let that guilt go. Like you're an incredible mom, you're an incredible business owner. To just be sitting here pouring into other moms right now with your time just speaks volumes of your character and who you are. So no guilt in motherhood. We all have these seasons of hardships and things we do
Exactly.
to be moms. So where are you now with your academy and your baby and even being married, like keeping that relationship going and healthy while you're doing and fulfilling these other roles is
Yes.
feels impossible sometimes. It really does.
It does, yes. So I feel very happy right now. I'm gonna have to say that, it takes time, and you agree that it takes time for your body to get back to normal, for your hormones to get back to normal, for your, the little small voice in your head telling you things. And that small voice was always telling me things like, you should be a mom, you shouldn't be working, you should be taken care of. And that was affecting my relationship with Ivan, because I felt like, again, I was resentment towards him. But also on the other side, I could not just be a stay-at-home mom. That's not who I am. Again, going back to the identity that I felt in the beginning, I see myself as a business owner and as a mom. I don't know if it's equal 50-50 or if it's, 40-60, but I see myself equally being both, and I cannot be just one. So I operate as both, and that's how I see myself, as a business owner and as a mom. So right now, I think that I would say, like, maybe this year, so 2022, 2024. So I had my baby 2022 September. So about maybe 12, maybe 18 months later ish, I felt like things just finally aligned. And what I mean by that, I mean by truly feeling like myself back in my body, right? So not only mentally, but also physically. I lost a lot of weight that I had. I started working out more, which that's like, if any of you are going through any struggles, start working out. The serotonin and the dopamine release while working out is so beneficial to heal from any trauma. I would say that this was a trauma, but in a sense,
Yeah,
your body is going through some trauma because it's going through a
really
lot.
is. Yeah.
So, that really helped me a lot. I've struggled with a lot of things myself as well. I developed these hives, chronic hives. I don't know what it was causing it. I've had that a couple of times in my life where it would go for about 2-3 months and just goes away. This time it was going on for a full year. So I would say about, like, when I just had a baby, for like maybe he was 6 months old, till this year, till February, I was having, literally going to ER, my lip would swell up, my eye would swell up, my whole body was covered in hive. Like, it was just crazy. So that's beyond the point. But I'm just trying to say, like, that was also something I was going through, and that was making me feel so just depressed, but not really depression. I don't like to use that term lightly, but just like sad. Like, can I
Yes.
just, like, can I not have these hives? Like the itching. If any of you had any ever had chronic hives and they just come out with no reason, and you go to these doctors, they cannot heal you. So, anyways, it was a lot.
Actually, that's my daughter struggled with the very same thing. 2 years ago, we went through a whole year of it. She would just swell up. We'd go in and out of the ER. Same thing. Doctors are like, sorry, you have chronic unicardia. We can't do anything to help you. But watching her in that, so I can't imagine being a mom coming out of that, you know, and you don't have your mom there to take care of you. So the way I had to care for her and how deeply I cared for her in those moments, and sitting with her in the ER, hoping that the epinephrine would work that time and that she wasn't going to lose her life. It was some of the most terrifying moments in my life. So the fact that you're going through that, no one can give you an answer. We actually turned to acupuncture, and since we've done that, she's been healed, thankfully, not one more episode. So that was the really big. I mean,
Thing.
at that point, for your kid, you do anything. I'm like, if I need to cartwheel down the street naked, I will. Like, what do you want me to do to heal my baby? I'll do it. And someone had just mentioned acupuncture. We found a really great doctor that studied in China, really well known, hour-long sessions with all these needles in your body. And she was at that point too. She's like, whatever I need to do to make this stop. I hate this, but I'm going to do this if it gets me well. And sure enough, it did. We really lucked out in that journey, because
Yeah.
otherwise, it was just the antihistamines too. I don't know if you had to take any of those. You can't even
Oh, they weren't
straight
working.
when.
They weren't even working. So same thing happened to me. After I even started doing, I went to an allergist and he put me on a drug, Xolair, I believe it was, for allergies.
Yep.
One dose, it was even worse.
Yes, we
Like,
had
and
the same thing. This
so
is
then I went
crazy.
to, same thing happened to me. I literally Googled functional doctors, or what they call, doctors that are healing more on a natural basis, right? Functional
Naturopath. Yep.
naturopaths. And same thing, I found a lady from China. She was great reviews, literally people, she was healing people from all kinds of diseases. And I went to her one session. She gave me these detox drops. So they were made in Germany, all natural detox drops. It was 3 in a box, and I was taking 15 of those every morning, every night.
Yeah.
Month later, all gone. I want to knock on wood. all gone, literally all gone. Not only that, I lost a lot of weight. I lost a lot of water weight because last year I gained a lot of weight because they put me on steroids, and I was on steroids for a whole year, injections and pills and all kinds of stuff. And I gained because steroids bind to water and salt. So I was like a balloon the year before that. Like I remember like my face was just so round, and that was making me more sad than anything, right? How I look when I see myself. And I'm on camera all the time. So when I see those posts and I'm like, oh my God, I was so like bloated. It wasn't even fat, it was just bloated. Anyways, she healed me. I lost probably about 10 to 15 pounds in a month. But again, it was just water weight mostly. Started working out, got my energy back, my hives were gone. Like, like I literally felt my sexual energy was on through the roof. Like all these things, like I went to her. I remember I was like, what you did? I don't know what you did, what you gave me, but this is gold. And literally it was $100 for those drops, comparing to all the doctors I went to and all the exams and blood work I've done before that. This was like for $100, you really like sold my life. So that was, I remember February, that switch I did, and everything changed for me. Everything. My physical health, obviously, my mental health. I felt back to my old self. Like I could start seeing my abs on my stomach finally. And I'm like, wow, like I'm back to that sexy person I used to be. Because before all this, before even meeting Ivan, I love to go out. I love to be sexy. I love to get dressed nicely. I always love to do my makeup. I'm a Leo, so I like to be, to show up, and I love the attention. And I just felt like I was hiding myself with baggy clothes, and I'm just operating at a very low frequency. So now finally I felt back to like when I was 21. I had more energy than that now. And and then everything shifts. So what shifted for us too was just me being more in the moment,
Yeah.
be more present, be more happy with the baby. He started going to daycare 3 times a week. We love that he's able to do that. He's in daycare right now. So those 3 days, I'm able to do as much work as possible. And other 3 or 4 days, we're able to spend with him. We're able to be at home. We're still working between his nap times, but I'm able to really, have half a week for him, half a week for my work, right? And I'm able to balance it. And now I don't feel guilty anymore because we have that help. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want the baby to go to daycare. It's still young, or she's still young. It's still early. He needs to be with me. I need to be the one teaching him. Yes, it's true. But for me, I just couldn't do that because I, again, have these two identities that I have to fulfill every day or every week, right? I cannot just do 1 week with the baby, 1 week work. I like that balance of a little bit at a time. So I don't get to the point where, oh, I'm sick being at home all the time, or I'm sick working all the time. I'm balancing it nicely, I would say. And then we have a girl that we found, and she comes in probably like once a week, so we can do a date night. So me and Ivan decided like we need to focus on ourselves, especially when he really took on this role to be a content creator last year. He was literally working probably, I don't know, 12, 13, 14-hour shifts in his office closed, and I'm like by myself watching TV, and I'm like, okay, I understand you're building something new, but like we don't have time for each other. We became roommates. We literally became roommates. Like the love is still there, the respect is still there, but we barely had sex. We barely paid attention to each other. We were barely having time. Like even when we have time, we will watch Netflix. That's not time with each other, right? That's like you're focusing on something else. So we lost that like spark. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm not happy. I don't feel sexually attracted. I don't want to even get ready for you anymore. Meaning like, shave or do makeup. Like I got
Yes.
lazy. We both got lazy. We both gained weight and all that. So again, going back to now February, we're like, this needs to change. We need to set a time for ourselves. Every Sunday, it's family day. Every Friday or Saturday, depends on the day or the week, we put times and we go out. So we book a nanny, she comes, we put the baby to sleep, usually around 7:38, and then we go out. We have dinner, we go to a show. Thankfully, we live in Vegas. There's always something to do. We go have a drink, we go dance. Like we started doing all these things that we forgot to do for many years before that. And that just, we started having more sex as well. Like we were just so much more hot for each other. We started working out more for each other, like, all these things. And we are now like back dating again. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we're dating back like we were when we were, 10 years ago or 9 years ago when we met. So that
I
really was,
always say that, like, date your spouse. Like, if you're not doing anything else, you've got to date your spouse because you do. And I think if you're in that season, we've all been there. Secret, even the couples you see that look perfect on Instagram, they've been there too. I think we've all been in that season where you lose the spark, you're not connecting the way that you should. And the fact that you stepped up and recognized and like raised the flag of I'm not happy. I think that's the most important thing. It's when we sit back and we're like, I don't want to say anything, or I don't want to bring this up, or I don't want to like hit this head on. And then it becomes the routine. And then your kids leave the house and you realize you don't even know the person that's living there with you. So the fact that you're that early on and being a mom and you're setting the intention of like, this is not what I want for our marriage. It's not what I want for my life. It's a really beautiful thing. I think when we really recognize it and we're not afraid to hit it head on, it changes. And there's something so good, I think, for us as moms to feel that spark and feel that sexy again, because so much of motherhood is not sexy. Let's be honest. It's not pretty. So I think getting that feeling back, especially if it's important to you. I love that you're recognizing your identity. I feel like every mom needs to hear that loud and clear right now. Like, know who you are outside of being a mom. And if it's stay at home, there isn't any judgment here. Like there if that is who you are. I tried that too because my husband was gone so much and I felt that guilt of like one of us needs to be here. And since he is the main breadwinner, he's got to do this thing and go out. I can kind of stay home and work. Not really, but I can. So I
Exactly.
stayed home and same thing. I was just so unhappy. I thought like I'm not fulfilling this part of me that is really
Exactly.
part of who I am. So I spent 4 years doing that in that unhappy slump because I thought that's what I had to do. So I
That is
love, yeah, I love that you're just seeing these things early on and that you're tackling it. I think it's so wise and I think it's just good for every mom to hear. Like the mom that's sitting there fighting it or like not speaking up and making it change ultimately like we're responsible for our lives, not just our kids. You got to do something about it. So you got to hire the nanny, you got to schedule the date night, you got to make it a habit, you got to put it on the calendar the same way you put like feeding your kids.
yeah. For me, in my calendar, 4:30 or no, 5 o'clock actually, 4:30 or 5 o'clock is family time. It's 5 o'clock, everything stops. Family time. So same thing like you said, like you have to literally put it in the schedule because you forget. Like again, life will get a hold of you and you forget. And I really wanted to add also, it's not only about me going out, like it's about me having my time for myself too, which is very important for me at least. Like having time, whether if I'm at the house or if I go to get my nails done, we don't guilt trip each other, right? So that's a lot of times people do that, like, oh, you're going to do your nails again, a husband, or you're going out again, right? Like I tell my husband, this is who I am. I love to go out by myself too with my friends, right? We don't have to just be me and you because it's very important to understand that before getting married and having a kid, you were individual. So if you, when you get married and have a kid, lose that individuality and just become a couple or just become parents and just become there for your kid, you lose who you are. And me, I used to always love to go out with my friends and go dance as well, like things like that. Have time to go to the gym, have time to go to get my nails done, have time to go to shopping, like all these things. And then when I tell my husband, hey, I'm planning to go to do this, and that, okay, sounds good. I'll be home with the baby, but tomorrow, can I do this? Can you stay with the baby? Sounds good. So we always organize, we always try not to guilt trip, and we understand that we both need to fulfill our own personal needs on the side from being a couple.
Yeah.
um so our outside from being a couple. So that's also very important to understand because I know that a lot of people will, maybe men will also guilt trip a woman. Well, you're going out again, well, you're shopping again, or I want to do things for myself, you're never at home. Like guilt tripping each other doesn't do anything. Or I never go to my friends and talk bad about my husband too. If I have a problem with my husband, I'm going to solve it with him because we're a team. We work this and we do this together. I'm not going to go and talk bad about him and complain to my friend, oh, he doesn't let me do this or he doesn't let me do that. Like if I have a problem, I'll come to him. So that's also one of the things I realize it's important in a relationship.
I think there's so much that speaks volumes. And we've always made that rule too of like, I see
Yeah.
people that do it and I'm thinking like that is a reflection of you. You chose to marry that person. So if you're saying they're so horrible and awful and you're talking and just trashing them, you're kind of trashing yourself in that same breath. So we
Exactly.
always said that too. We always said like, hey, just bring it straight on. And I mean, I think you need that close circle of one or two women that you can be like, hey, this is a struggle that we're having, but
Yep.
ours is always like our conversations are not like my husband sucks or I hate that he does this thing. It's like, hey, this is where we're struggling right now. This is like what's happening and that I'm having a hard time with. Like, what do you do? Have you been in these moments? So it's more of like a share, how do we
Makes sense.
get the next step or how do we get out of this if you've been in that same season? But yeah, I don't think there's any help in guilt tripping or trashing your spouse in any way, shape, or form, unless you want a really unhappy marriage, because ultimately that is what it's going to bring you. It's a really, really deep level of resentment and unhappiness. And then it's perspective. If you're talking bad about that person, you're always going to see bad in that person. So yeah,
Exactly.
I love that you're being intentional. I think there's so much to be said in that of really maintaining that healthy relationship and healthy marriage because when your marriage or, you're with your significant other, when there's tension there and when there's guilt and when that resentment really builds and you don't tackle it, you're going to fall into unhappiness and depression and
It just
hard.
becomes deeper and it becomes deeper and deeper if it's not solved. I always say like it's almost like putting it under a rug, like maybe you briefly solve it and maybe you briefly talk about it, but you really don't make any changes. So like me and my husband Ivan, we always talk like whenever we have an issue and I see him, like I always tell him communicate with me. I know how you breathe. The way you breathe, I know if something is wrong. Like you cannot hide it from me, right? At this point, like you're together for so long and you spend so much time together, like just tell me I see you, let's communicate. Don't make me think like, oh, have I done something wrong? Don't make me question myself. Let's talk about it and let's see how we can solve and how we can forget, because when you communicate, or oftentimes we think, oh, I'll solve my own problems, or that's a big problem I see with couples. I think he will realize it, right? Or she will realize it. I'll think, by seeing me this sad, they'll realize what's wrong. I cannot realize what's wrong if you don't communicate with me. Express yourself. And a lot of couples have that issue, they don't express. They hide, they hide, they hide, and then you just burst at some point over some stupid thing like, coffee spilled or whatever it is, like you just burst and all that comes out. And that was happening to me last year. I would snap at Ivan for a little small thing because I had such bigger resentment in myself that I wasn't solving or wasn't communicating. So I learned since then what was the issue. And now whenever we have a problem, let's sit and talk. What's wrong? Let's sit and talk.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you have to go through hard times to realize these things. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be here where I am today. So you cannot learn these things just from a book or just from theory. You learn it from your own experience. And going through these harder times in my life where we had issues or where I felt certain way when he felt certain way was what brought us this year to where. So when you ask me, how do you feel now? I feel great now. I feel really fulfilled and really happy. And I don't have resentment. I don't have unresolved issues or things that bother me, because every time I do, we discuss it in a day, we solve it. Tomorrow we move on. So that's one of the things that helped us a lot.
I feel like there's so much good advice here and so much good wisdom here that you're sharing as far as mom, marriage, business, all of these things that are so important. And yeah, I think it'll serve moms really well. I think when we talk about communication, that's always a big one that I get asked because we've been together for 20 years. Like, what do you do? How do you do this? It's so much communication. And you're right. Like, there is never a time where I look at my husband and I expect him to know. I'm very much like, I need you to do this thing for me right now. It's a priority in my mind. And like, if you wait 10 minutes, I'm going to be bitter critter and it's not going to be good. So I'm just loud and clear and open of like, if then, like, if we don't tackle this now, or if you don't swoop in and help me, I am going to turn into a monster that you're going to wish you were not married to.
Yep, yep,
So
that's pretty much me.
I know, and there's times too. I mean, I'm in the season which, oh girl, get ready. Perimenopause, like no one talks about it. We talk about menopause and all the struggles that come with that, but the shifts of like perimenopause in your early to mid 40s, whenever it hits you, it is almost like pregnancy hormones all over again. And
Oh,
they hit hard, and no doctor can read the tests or knows what to do about it. And I mean, just sweating and frustrated and irritable. So I remember my husband coming in, he's like, I don't know what to do. Like, what's going on? You just seem happy. And I'm like, I know it's hormones. I know, like, we know what it is. This is not me. He's like, yeah, but how do I help you through this? Like, what do I do so you're not feeling like this all the time? So I notice I'm overstimulated more than usual. Usually my patience level is super high. I mean, I am running a business. I am raising two teenagers. I've got family out of town. I've got, I'm the planner of all the things that happen for our entire extended family. And now I'm noticing like one small thing and my irritability and overstimulation is through the roof. So we're just, again, it's just open communication of managing it. I looked at him one time, I'm like, you can just marry someone else. I am a total chaos mode right now. And he's like, I'm not marrying someone else. I love you. Like, yeah, this sucks, but like I hear you. It's just hard. So I love what you're doing now to set yourself up for success of any season and any hardship in life. And I mean, I will be totally transparent. I'm sure you will be too. This doesn't come easy, and it doesn't mean you have this perfect relationship. It's work, it's time, it's addressing the hardships together. It's really like these seasons of motherhood and these seasons of being a wife and running a business, they all require so much of us and in so many pieces. So have you, like, what is just that best advice? I know you're going to get your nails done, and something else I loved about you, which was you're like, tomorrow's my birthday, so I can't do this interview tomorrow. I will sit with you, I will help moms, I will pour into them, but like tomorrow is my day. I loved that. I just love that you are celebrating and that you take that time and you really preserve it. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. So what was the question again?
So how do you like what do you do to make sure you're preserving that time for yourself and that piece of your identity so you don't get burnt out in the other two big pieces?
Yes, so I don't have a problem with saying no anymore. So, or putting boundaries. Okay. So, even if it's like, for example, when you asked me, can you move this? I didn't say no, I cannot. I just said, like, I have a birthday. So, I can do it next week. So, I'm not going to say no. Yep. No, it's a no. I'm going to say no at the time, but let's move it to a different week, or let's push it to this, or can you do it this way? Right. So, I'll try to compromise even if I say no. There are some times where I say no when it doesn't align with me anymore. So I always say this: if it doesn't make me money, if it doesn't make me a better person, if it doesn't excite me to do something, or if it doesn't make me better in any way, I'm gonna say no to it, and I'm not gonna even discuss it anymore. Right? I've learned that by saying yes to a lot of things. So I think that in the beginning of anything, beginning of being a mom, beginning of having a kid, beginning of running a business, anything, that you have to say yes to a lot of things because you don't know what to say no to yet. But through that experience, you learn how to protect your energy. So now I know how to say no. I know how to set my boundaries. I know how to, because right now, especially with students, we have a lot of students right now. We have over 100 students right now in our academy, and it's hard. Everyone wants your attention, and they're texting me all the time and asking me for certain things. Before, I was always on my phone responding. Now I tell them, hey, I have a coaching session every Saturday. Please join so I can address those questions. So I'm not, responding to everyone individually. I'm responding them on that time that I put on the side for students. When we have a hands-on training, I know that's the time I have to put for my students. When I'm here at home with the baby, I'm not going to be on the phone calling people. I'm going to be with my baby. So like putting those boundaries, but not feeling guilty about them. That's very important. And then also knowing really what's important. Like I said, if it doesn't make me better, if it doesn't make me money, if it doesn't bring me new students, if it doesn't help with my health, I'm going to say no to it. So I think that's really it comes with experience. Again, it comes with experience, understanding. And now I could say I love the 30s, to be honest. We all think the 20s are the best because you have the most energy, but 20s is really a hard time because you're trying to figure out a lot. So I've done my 20s. I've tried to figure out, and I have figured out a lot. Now in my 30s, I'm so happy with who I am and where I am. And I know exactly what I want, like 100%, from my love life to the kid, to the food I want to eat, to how I want to look, to what I want to buy. I don't doubt and question anything. And if that doesn't align to what my standards are, in a sense, I'm going to say no to it. And I'm okay with doing that right now. I'm okay with that because, again, I'm so happy with where I am. I feel like a lot of times, again, in 20s, because you don't know who you are, trying to find yourself, you say yes to a lot of things, which, again, it's a good thing. But then you realize after you've done it, oh, this was a bad decision. And it's okay. I always say 20s are to do or make a lot of bad decisions. Maybe
Sure.
even 30. I'm sure 40s are even better. They say 40s are the best. So
They
maybe I'm
are.
wrong.
They
Right
are.
now, I also started early. Like, for example, I started building my business when I was 22, 23, when I went to cosmetology school. So I was started early. Ivan, for example, he did start his personal training business back then, but he was kind of going back and forth between jobs. So technically he started his business and a lot of work on himself in his 30s. So now he's in his 40s and he's operating at the highest frequency, knowing exactly who he is and what he wants to do. But in his 30s, he did say yes to a lot of things. So it's never late. I'm not saying that you had to do it in the 20s. Maybe you missed the 20s and you worked for someone else and you just let the 20s pass without working on yourself, without getting educated, without learning a new skill, or without, trying to start a business. That's okay too, or maybe there's a lot of people who had babies so young in the 20s, early 20s, and then you kind of try to figure out life with having a baby and you're still a baby yourself. So I'm sure, again, everyone goes through struggles on their own time, but I'm just trying to say that in the beginning, say yes to everything. Through that, you learn what not to say no to, and then later on in 15 or 10 years, you'll know exactly where you need to be. So yeah, that's really the answer to that question.
I love that. And I love just like for me, I had to visually almost picture like putting the hat on to separate because I kept letting it filter in. So I almost had to be like, all right, this is mom hat, and that nothing else comes into that. Now I'm business owner hat and nothing else distracts, because they say women are supposed to multitask. We're supposed to do all these things really well. It's really a joke. We're not. We don't multitask well. You're never going to do all those things at once and do them all well. Something's going to suffer. It's probably going to be your mental health at the end of it. So I think really how you're bucketing each thing, you're distinguishing the time, and one doesn't get to filter into the other, really saves and preserves your mental health, your identities, and that time becomes really more precious. It's really more special when you're just focused. Like I know when I just see my girls, or they'll say like, I'll let it filter in a little bit and they're like, hey, can you put your phone down? And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, thank you for calling me out. You little smart mouth teenager, but thank you. Because they know and they've seen that, and I've set that precedence for them. And I think you're doing that too for your kiddo. Like you're setting this precedence, like my time with you is more important than anything else. But when I'm over here doing this thing, this is important to me too. And that's okay. It's okay to see that. So I think if you're sitting there and you're like, how do I get to that point of like I can say no as gracefully and beautifully as she does, it's really just starting to identify, like you said, what makes me happy, what drives my purpose, what drives the passion behind these things that are important to me. And then nothing else gets to filter in, because when you start to let it do that, you are the one that really suffers at the end of the day as a mom. So I love
Exactly.
that. I love what you're doing for your business, for your kid, for your marriage. It's really sweet. It's sweet to hear your heart. It's really nice. I think even if you are a stay-at-home mom, I think it's really important. I love to hear the hearts and minds of moms that stay at home and don't have a business. I love to hear their struggles. I love to hear their heart. I want to build them up in that too. So I think getting to hear from you as a successful business owner and a mom, no matter what stage or season you're in, it just helps us together to just support one another, which is ultimately what we need to do. So I love that we got this time with you. It's absolutely wonderful. And I love that I'm so excited for this, that you are going to gift us with this makeup lesson. It's
So
going to be
excited to
so
record it.
much fun. And our goal with that is really just simply nothing, no fancy tools, no expensive things. You're really just going to break down how to get that everyday polished look as a busy mom. Our time is you said 7 minutes. You got the face that you have on camera today. Oh, you've got to teach me all the tips and tricks, because I was like 30 minutes going, do I do lashes? What do I, getting ready for these.
That's why this is a 7 minute. This is like tinted moisturizer, bronzer, blush, a little brow on my eyes. I use my bronzer on my eyes. So when
Okay.
doing my bronzer, I just swoop it a little bit in my eyes. A quick liner, but I do it usually for this quick. I do it with a shadow. So I just kind of like tap it a little bit, really, just to
Okay.
add a little dimension. Mascara and a lip gloss. Like
I love it.
brushes and 6 products, like that's it. So again, I've done it so many times, so I know exactly what to grab. Like I have that little couple of those products in front of me that I always use, and just super easy. Like that literally takes me 7 minutes to do. So I'll teach you guys how to do that.
Yay! I can't wait. I need it. I need to condense my time, and I'm so excited that we get to learn from your brilliant mind and get a little piece of your academy right in our houses as moms to just, I think it is like for me, makeup, I'm with you. It's fun to me. I like to dress up. I like to put on an extra piece of jewelry. That was my mom's advice to me. Like if you're just feeling down, grab your prettiest piece of jewelry, grab some darker lipstick, and just give yourself a little pick me up. And I love that. So this is really designed to be.
What's important, I just want to add this, sorry for interrupting, it's we get lazy. So it's not that you don't enjoy that anymore or that you don't want to, you just get lazy. So I see a lot of people also, or a lot of girls like, oh, how can you wear heels all the time? I don't wear heels because they're so comfortable and I love wearing heels. I wear heels because they put me in a different alter ego. When I put my makeup on, I am a different person. Like it put me in a different alter ego. I operate at a better frequency. I have more energy. So
Yeah.
especially for those who work at home, you get lazy, you wake up, you roll out of bed, you just brush your teeth, and you get coffee, you sit at the desk, you're like, oh my God, another day. But when you put makeup on, just that 5 minute makeup, and just put a nicer, like for example, this is a dress that I have that I like wearing at home. And it's a dress I used to wear when I used to go out, but it's an older dress. And I put it and I wear it at home because it makes me feel sexy at home. It makes me feel good. It makes me, if I need to run to the store, I'm already done. I don't need to get ready, right? So like that puts me in energy, and it gives me more energy to accomplish more things knowing, oh, I've done my makeup. So a lot of times again we get lazy, and then I've had a friend, we just went out last Saturday, and she's like, oh, you always wear heels, I'm gonna have to wear heels this time, I always wear flats. I'm like, yeah, but like, don't you feel better when you wear them? Yes, your feet hurt next day, but don't you feel so sexy, and your legs are so much more elevated, and everyone's looking at you. Like, I love the attention too. So like, I love when I wear my high heels. So I think that's also one of the things that we have to overcome, but being lazy and finding little small things to do during the day that makes us feel a little bit better, makes us feel a little bit more confident in ourselves.
Yeah, and it's not even, I think it's not even for some moms always lazy. It's just this habit of like you serve everyone before yourself. Like everything else comes before me. And yeah, if
Exactly.
you don't give yourself 7 minutes to put your makeup on, brush your hair. Please brush your teeth. If you're not, like, at least let's start there and get, girl, brush your teeth. We can do those little bits of things that give us the boost of confidence. I'm the same way. On the days when I don't focus on myself just a little bit, my energy level is so much different. Or if I don't get up, make my bed, get dressed, get intentional about what I'm going to do in each bucket that day, I just don't feel good. I'm not productive. I'm never going on a date with my husband that day, I can tell you that. But the days when I get ready and you put the heels on, you're like, you better take me out because I look good. I feel good. So
And I
yeah,
think
I think
what women can do to, so you know how sometimes when you have to go out, they're like, oh well, I have to do this and I have to do that, and then so I think that what really helps is always being staying ready. So what I mean by that is getting your nails done every 2 3 weeks, or doing it yourself at home if you don't want to pay anyone else to do it. Like there's all those press-ons,
yes.
get them done. Shaving your legs every 2 3 days, so you're not getting to the point where, oh, I have to do all this to get ready. Getting your hair dyed, if you have some gray hairs, right? Like you can do it yourself, a friend can do it, you can buy a store bought dye
Yes.
home. So like, I'm not talking about investing a lot of money for those who say like, well, I don't have the money for that, right? You can do this very, very easily at home. Getting maybe some type of product for your face so you can exfoliate every couple of days so your face feels really good. So you don't get to the point where you need to again do a full facial in order to go out. So I think those little small things really make a difference when you're always ready in a sense. So if you need to go out, all you need to do is take a shower, get dressed, and put 5 minute makeup. So I can get ready in 20 minutes. If someone tells me, hey, we're going out tonight, do you want to go? Yep, sure. Let me just put on some nice clothes and go. So like, I think that really is the key. So we
Yeah.
don't neglect ourselves so much. So when we need to go out, it takes us 2 hours to get ready and do all these services and all these little things. I think that is one of the things that helped me a lot.
I love that. And I love the press. Like there's so many ways to do it cheap. I keep a box of those as the just in case backup because I don't want to be left not ready. Or same thing, like you don't feel sexy when you don't shave. Like just shave so you feel good because you're probably gonna get some that night. And you're ready. You're ready
100%.
for it. So it's, yeah, I think just little small things. And I think for that mom that feels stuck or feels like she is too many steps far gone, you're not. Like just go get those press on nails. Go get that box of dye at CVS. Like, go do the one little thing right now that makes you feel better. We're going to give you really cool makeup tips to give you a quick polish, which I think is going to be a lot of fun and elevate a lot of moms. For me, that was a big one. I remember friends calling when my husband left for 2 months. I had a newborn. I had a 16-month-old. She came late by 3.5 weeks. So everybody that had time off to help me was back to work and gone. I mean, I'm in the breast milk stained shirt, a toddler at my feet, a new baby, everything's a wreck. And I'm going, no, you can't come. And it isolated me into this tiny corner of just sadness and frustration. And then when I started to pull out and I just started, like you said, the one little thing, you just dye the hair, you just shave the legs, you just get dressed for the day in your favorite outfit. One little thing at a time becomes habits for everything else. And then you really do get back to being yourself, which is the most important thing. We find ourselves. So
Yes, exactly. That was really good. This is a great interview. We shared a lot.
I know we got deep in this. Thank you so much.
It is. I love
Hopefully
it.
Ivan can pull some good stuff from it. I think we did a
Oh,
lot.
I'm sure there'll be
Well,
a lot of good topics here.
yes, thank you for doing this. And just last before we go, so Nikolina is going to drop a link to all of her great stuff in her academy and all the wonderful things that she's doing. She is also, when it's her block of time, not right away. So if you've got questions on makeup, if you've got questions on mom life, if you've got questions on how to be a business owner, how to maybe start your own academy or be a part of what she's doing, she'll chime in and help us below and answer your questions and comments. And maybe not that very day, but you'll get a good answer from her. So thank you for devoting your time to help moms today. I know that this is going to really speak into the hearts of so many moms that need to hear this and hear that they are beautiful and powerful in their role and still important in who they are outside of being a mom. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen, for having me. It was a pleasure. I appreciate you. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. And like I said, we're going to put all the links down below so you guys can reach out if you have any questions. This is my easy setup when I do my makeup. So I just did my moisturizer. I have pretty dry skin, so I like to use, it's called Triple Moisturizer, La Roche-Posay at Ulta. It's a really good product. If you don't have as much, I would say, dry skin, they have a double moisturizer. Yes, it's a little bit lightweight. It's literally $16 for like this big bottle. I'm obsessed with that. I bought moisturizers that were like $100, and that one is my go-to. Next, I like to mix my foundation. I either use just the Saie Slip Tint. This is my also go-to tinted moisturizer for every day. But today I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of the foundation. This is the Urban Decay Face Bond Foundation. They're very similar in texture. And the only reason I'm mixing them today because this is my summer shade, so it might be a little too warm for me. So I'll use like 2 pumps. And then I use like, I don't know, same equal amount, I guess, of this because it's a little bit lighter. So it just like lightens this a little bit. Normally, if it's, let's say summer, if my shade is good, I just use that by itself. And then I like to use a brush like this. So I just like to mix it up like this a little bit. I take my BK Beauty brush. This is my TikTok impulse purchase, and actually it's really good. So that's my brush that I pretty much use for foundation and a lot of different cream products. And then I like to go slowly. I don't like to go with too much heavy product. Let's see how this is gonna look like. It actually might be good, because you see it's a little bit too warm for me. That's why I toned it down. But when I bring it down my neck, I feel like it works. It blends easy. So you can kind of see every little...
But even look in the lighting, how it blends beautifully down.
Yeah.
It does, yeah. So again, it's maybe half a shade now warmer for me, because I bought it. I still have some, like I don't want to throw it away before I buy the new one. I'm very like minimalistic with my makeup. So like I don't buy new makeup until I spend what I have. Because I used to overbuy, like, oh, new foundation came out, new concealer. And I have like 5 concealers, so all half empty. And I'm like, no, until I spend the one I have, I'm not buying the new one. So I try to be very minimalistic. And same with travel too. Like now my goal is with this travel to have my own like little kit for to go and just like pack, like just go. I don't have to like pack my makeup that I have at home.
That's smart.
I have a lot of those like yellow, purple, blue areas. So I kind of like go over that as well, just to kind of, I'd say, conceal it a little bit. I like to do a little bit more coverage right here. You can still see some of my freckles showing through. So I like to go over that. I love this brush because it's so big, but that's why I feel like it takes me less time. And you can see how I have a lot of those blue, purple
corners. I even have like a freckle right here, which drives me crazy. It always looks like a dark spot, but it's a freckle. So next product is my contour. I know this sounds weird, but I just like to get it done really quickly. I use a brush like this, like a denser, bigger brush, and I do use powder on top of cream. So I'm using that powder. It's kind of like a bronzer slash contour for me because it technically says soft sculpt the bronzer. So it has a little warmth to it, but it's not completely cool. Typically contours are gonna be more cool. This one is right in between, and this is from Makeup by Mario in color light medium. I think it's a good product because it's not too dark. I like to start from the tip here, and you can see I kind of leave a little dent, and then I like to blend it. And the reason I love this brush because it's big. So as I'm blending or applying, I'm blending as well. So I like to kind of like use it for, again, contour and bronzer in the same time, I guess. So I like to go in, and this just allows me to do it. So I guess bigger brushes allow me to do things faster. And you see when I'm tapping, I'm kind of tapping on a bigger surface, not just like in a spot, because again, I want to just warm up my face. So this product is very light, you can see, like it doesn't give you a lot of color at once, but you can build it. So once you build it, it actually looks really good. I use the same brushes to do a little bit of the contour on the nose and right under my chin. I hate my double chin, so I like to do almost like a little triangle right here. I like to go back and forth. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I like to always step out. Like a bronzy. So again, big brush. So next, with the same brush, foundation brush, I'm gonna use my blush. So this is my Rare Beauty cream blush. So I'm layering powder and cream because I'm gonna be tapping everything. So I think it's okay if you learn how to work with creams and powders. It's okay to go back to creams again once you learn how to do that. So I like to use this blush kind of like right on top of my cheek, on top of that contour, and lift everything up. And this is a very this is my summer shade again, but I kind of like it. It works well even on this skin tone. I was afraid it's gonna be too orange for me during the time when I'm more neutral, because when I'm warm, it works perfectly. It gives me that peach glow, but it actually works on this skin tone as well. It blends well. So same brush, same foundation brush, I'm just blending. I like to kind of blend it higher into my under eye as well, and then tap everything out to blend it out. And I like to tap all the way up to my contour as well. So everything is nicely blended. There's no harsh lines. And I love how it lasts. Like this blush just lasts. And you can see how I'm just like blending it higher into my contour and into my under eye. I haven't done my under eye yet. So I love that, like, I don't know, feeling when everything is blended. You don't see where one thing stops, one thing begins. Next, my concealer. This is the House Labs concealer in color light neutral or 11. So I have a lot of those bluish purple undertones, and this one is, if you can see, has a peach, almost like a little pink, little yellow undertone. So that's why I like it, because it cancels out all those areas that are kind of like purple, blue. So I like to use a good amount right here and a little bit right here. Do a little bit more right here. I love this concealer because it's very, very hydrating. And then I like to do a little bit in the, yeah, so it's very, like, no matter how long I have it, it's never going to crease. I like to use, you can do a beauty blender for this, or you can do a brush. I love something dense, short, kind of like your Mr. Handyman. That's why I love that brush. Or this one has like a nice curve. I feel like I've seen a brush on Amazon, or not Amazon, on TikTok that went viral like this shape. This is from MOTD Cosmetics. And with this, I like to tap it into the skin. So a little bit down, and you can see how nicely just brightens. And then as I'm doing that, I also do the lid as well. So that's gonna be my primer, I'd say, for my eye. Okay, so that already looks much better. I might add a little bit. See how I have a very like deep, I would say that line here is very deep. I like to go back in. So if you feel like you're tired, if you feel like you don't have enough sleep, go back to that little line here and add a little bit more product, and that will push your line or deep set area forward. It's not gonna look as I would say like you wake up feeling or looking tired. So I like to go right in that area and brighten that. So that is going to appear a little bit less visible. Do you see the difference? So how I just did that? Again, I cannot really take it away completely, but I do like to kind of go back and add a little more product. So now I like to go back to my foundation brush that I still have some of that blush left and just like blend out that blush now back into my concealer. So that's why, again, this big brush just does, it's like almost the brush does the job for you because it's so big. Okay. Next, I like to set my under eyes. If I need my makeup to last all day, I'll use a loose powder, always with a powder puff. If I'm like, I just want something super quick, I'm running out of the door, I actually like this one. I got this in a PR box. It's a pressed powder, but it doesn't have any color. It's translucent, I guess. So I might just use this. But this is not gonna last a long time. So this is for those couple of hours I need to be, doing some quick errand. But if I really want my makeup to last, I have to use a loose powder. So I like the Makeup Forever. Huda Beauty is my favorite too. Really good for everyone, for every skin type. So this is how I do it. I'll put a little bit on the pan, take my powder puff, I go in with the powder puff, and then I like to play back on the back of my hand to make sure I desaturate some of that product because we don't want too much. And then I'm gonna go under here, and I only set my under eye and a little bit like where I have those pores and texture, that's what I like to set. I don't really like to set anything else. A little bit maybe the forehead, because I really like my face to look like, maybe I'll do a little bit here because I have some texture right here. And that's the only areas I'll set. Next, I like to do my highlight. I'm using the Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Pillow Talk highlighting wand. This one leaked, it got so messy. So I have to be very careful not to use too much. I'm gonna just use the tiniest bit right here. I like to put on top of my cheek and the tiniest bit right here. I like to do a little bit on the tip of my nose, on the Cupid's bow. And then again, my foundation brush. And then I just tap that in. So pretty much whatever I just applied blush is where I tap this highlight in. I don't like to go too low, so I don't want to go too low where I have that texture. So I kind of try to keep everything up and I'm just tapping. Very fast movements. I'm just tapping a little bit right here. And whatever's left on the brush, I like to kind of go over this area right here, the highest point of my forehead, which is right here, if I have something left on the brush. Okay, so that is that. That's my face. Now for the eyes, I have a trick I love to do. I love to use this pencil. Is a cream eye pencil. It's called Magnetic Luminous Eye Color. This is from Nude Sticks and it's color Immortal. So it's a perfect bronzy color as a base. I like to use this as a base. So I like to do my eyes super quick. So I like to coat my lash line with this. Kind of like going lighter as I go in, thicker and denser. You see how I have a little bit of that fold here. So I like to kind of map it out over that fold. Give myself a little bit of lifting effect here. And just do this kind of shape. You see how that already gives me a lifting effect. Then I take a big blending brush, something like this. Before this completely sets, I go in and start blending it. See how easily that blends? So that's why I like cream eyeshadows, because I just do this like for 1 second. I don't need to do anything much to this. Same thing goes on the other side. And it doesn't have to be perfect because again, I am going to blend it anyways. So again, I'm looking straight at myself. I'm seeing where that fold is. I'm going over that fold. I'm not pressing too hard. So that's how this looks like. Maybe fill in a little bit right here. And then again, go back to my blending brush, circular motions outside, tapping motions inside. I like to go all the way in my crease as well to add some definition. I just feel like this. You see, so now it looks like I have a liner because I have that liner left from yesterday. So it looks like I have a little liner going on. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom lash. I like to do only the outer corner. I typically don't like to close my eyes. So if you're someone who has smaller eyes, don't go all the way in. Keep it more on the outer 1/3 of the eye. And it will give you that more lifting effect. For this, I like to go with a little bit smaller brush, easier to kind of get in between the lash line right here, and then just lightly smoke it out. And the reason I love this color is because it's bronzy, but it's on a cool tone side. It's not warm, so it just emphasizes my eye color. I really like it. Next, I'll do a bit of eyeshadow. So before I proceed, because my eyes will crease, this is a cream eyeshadow, I like to go in with a little bit of the setting powder, loose powder, and just press right here to set it a little bit. Because again, if I don't, this area will crease for me because I have that lower fold. Whenever you have that extra skin folding, it will crease. So because I haven't really set it, because I use cream on top of my concealer, I do want to go back and set it just a little bit right here. Next, I like to use my Natasha Denona little palette. I love this for travel. It's perfect. And this is in color Starlet, Mini Starlet. I'm going to use this cool tone mauve color here, light kind of transition shade with that same brush. So pretty much I use like 2-3 brushes. If I want to add a little bit more, and I'll just tap over that cream and just add a tiniest bit more of the product and kind of blend it back in my crease. So I do those circular motions and the windshield motion as well. Doing on the other side. So because I have that cream underneath, this just sticks super easy and it just blends so easy. And important is to have a big blending brush here. For any areas, actually I forgot to do my brows, I just realized that. Let me go back to my brows real quick. For my brows, I use this super easy product. It's called Undone Beauty. You can get it at Ulta. And it has on one end a little mascara. I call it a mascara wand or a brow gel, right? So I just like to go back in and just add a little bit of definition, because sometimes when you do your foundation, even if you have a tattoo, the color goes away. So I just like to bring something back to my brow because I feel like I don't really have much going on. And then on the other side, it has this little felt tip, which is perfect for filling in these little areas where I want to add a little more definition.
I like that it fixes the color too.
Yeah.
It pulls the gray out of your brows.
Yeah. Well, it looks more gray because I have foundation on. So, or kind of even blue a little bit because I have foundation. Without foundation, they don't look gray. They look like more brown. And I like to just fill them in super lightly. That's why I like this pencil, because it almost acts like a liner. Let's put it that way. Looks like a liner, but for brows. And it's just so easy, so bendable, and it's not too harsh. So like when I'm applying it, I know I'm not going to apply too much product. Here I did a little bit too much. I can clean that.
It gives you like cute little strokes.
Yeah, so just like a super, super easy something. I mean, again, I'm not really doing much. I'm going to use the same brush, and now I'm going to use this very light color here in the middle, just to kind of soften some of the edges above here. So like any of these edges, I want to soften. Oh, maybe a little too much, too pink. I don't really want to do that, but it's okay. And then I like to go in with my bronzer, same brush, and kind of like flip it down. Then I like to go in with the same with the same palette and this shimmer color here with my ring finger. I love to just top this on top. So just like a light application, almost like I'm just tapping, because now I didn't really set that area of my eye, so it is still a little bit creamy. So I'm able to just like literally just tap it on top and blend it out. And that's my whole eye makeup. Super easy.
You know, I made a protein shake this morning, so I wouldn't have even noticed. Thank you.
I love using more cool tone colors on my eyes because I'm more cool now. I don't have a lot of warmth. Just want to get a little bit of the eyeshadow brush, just something to go back into my inner corner because my nails are long, so I cannot really reach right here. So I like to just go back to that. Okay, I already curled my lashes. I'm gonna use my mascara. I love my Lash Idol from Lancome. That's my favorite mascara. I have bought probably 10 of these. And I just pretty much apply my mascara. If I want more definition alongside my lash line, I'll get like a small brush, something like this with a very dark brown color, and I kind of smudge it alongside my lash line for that super easy, quick look. But this is, for me, again, enough because I kind of have from yesterday some of the tight line left, so it looks like I have a liner going on. Such a good mascara. And what I love about it, it never transfers on me, and it's not waterproof. It never like runs down. It never gets like under the eyes. I always, always, always have that issue where my mascara would transfer, like either from the lower lash line or from the upper lash line. It would like melt under my eye and it would just like leave creases, and it was always driving me crazy. Okay, now I'm gonna just do something real quick. I would like to use a little bit of the pressed powder with my powder puff. I can kind of see some of the glow showing through here, and I don't like that. I always like this area to be nice and matte right here. So that is my rule. Anytime I do my makeup, anyone else's makeup, I hate being or looking oily in this area. I always like to diffuse that, I guess. My pet peeve is when I do my mascara so fast, I always get it on my skin, always. I need to do something with my lashes. I feel like I need a lift or something. Have you guys ever done a lift?
I haven't, but I want to.
Yeah. I feel like if I did that, my lashes will look so good.
Yeah, it's good. Like, it really has, like, I wish I would have did that before I started doing extensions. Did you have already, like, a full lash?
Okay. And for my lips, my go-to lip liner, I've been using this lip liner for the past probably 3-4 years. This is NYX lip liner in color Brooklyn Torn. There's two that I love, Brooklyn Torn and Los Angeles. They're both are very similar. They have that like mauve undertone, kind of like similar to my lip color. If you are someone who has that mauve undertone in your lips, this is like a perfect lip color. I can kind of feel my lip like this.
Yeah, look at her. She's doing it right now. Like, I've never.
Because I can just like feel my borders. So I love using the Makeup by Mario. This is Moisture Glow Plumping Lip Color. That was a mouthful. And this is soft blush. I love it. It's like a perfect, kind of like a neutral nude. So they're not too cool, not too warm, right in between.
I think I used the same one.
Yeah,
yesterday.
you did?
Oh, you have the same color?
No, I used this one for her yesterday.
So it's very hydrating, and it's kind of like a lip gloss. And that's my makeup. And then lastly, just a little bit of the setting spray. I use Airbrush from Charlotte Tilbury, and I don't like to spray my eyes. And that's that.